Hello, this is a City of Line, special issue. This time, the Philippines. Not the postcard version. 5,000 years of the real story. From the oldest port in Southeast Asia to a world city built on top of everything that came before it. Once you see the full arc, you will never look at this place the same way. This is 5,000 years of collision in the Philippines. Start here, present day, Intramuros, Manila. People filming, photographing, walking through stone archways that have been standing longer than most countries have existed. It looks peaceful, preserved, photogenic. The ground beneath those cobblestones tells a different story. A Spanish friar points at the Philippines coastline and shouts one word, Moros! He is not in Spain. He is on the other side of the planet. But the 781-year war he just left behind, the Reconquista, the struggle against Muslim rule in Iberia, has followed him across two oceans. The Muslims he finds in Sulu and Mindanao remind him so completely of the Moors of his homeland that he uses the same name for them. One word that will shape Philippine culture and conflict for the next 5 centuries. To understand how this moment happened, we go back, much further back. Two civilizational movements, both originating from the Iberian Peninsula, moving in opposite directions around the globe. Islam traveling eastbound across Asia, Christianity traveling westbound via Latin America. The crescent and the cross converging on the same archipelago at almost exactly the same moment. This was not a coincidence. It was geography. But first, who was already here? The Balangay, the oldest known wooden watercraft ever excavated in Southeast Asia. Built from hardwood hulls, rattan fiber, nipa leaf sails. Sophisticated enough to navigate the open ocean. Starting around 3000 BCE, Austronesian peoples migrated southward from Taiwan aboard vessels like this one, settling the Philippine archipelago island by island. This was not a primitive technology. This was 5,000 years of accumulated maritime knowledge, and we'll come back to that. These boats were not merely transport, they were the original unit of civilization. The community that saved together in a single barangay became the Barangay, the smallest political unit of government in the Philippines today. Every neighborhood, every village across 7,600 islands traces its name back to this. People who trusted each other enough to cross the open ocean together. The vessel became the blueprint for society. By the 10th century, these maritime communities had built a trade network reaching from Luzon to China, Southeast Asia, Persia, and the Middle East. Philippine communities were exchanging goods with China centuries before any European power knew this archipelago existed. Not a backwater, an active, sophisticated civilization trading without borders. The first great force arrives. Islamic missionaries traveling established trade routes from the Middle East, reached the southern Philippines in the 13th century. They established the Sultanate of Sulu and the Sultanate of Mindanao, mature, sophisticated Islamic states with their own legal systems and naval forces. Islam had been in the Philippines for over 2 centuries before Christianity arrived. Now the second force, from the opposite direction. In 1565, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi sails from Mexico across the Pacific, riding the great oceanic currents westward. Christianity crosses the largest ocean on earth and lands on islands where Islam is already established. 2 religions, 2 directions, 1 archipelago. The collision was engineered. The Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494 and the Treaty of Zaragoza in 1529 divided the entire non-Christian world between Spain and Portugal on paper, in Europe by men who had never seen most of what they were carving up. The compass, the galleon, the cannon, the treaty document, tours that turned a religious encounter into a global empire. For 250 years, the Manila-Acapulco Galleon trade linked Asia and the Americas. Chinese silk and spices eastbound to Mexico, Mexican silver westbound to Manila. The Pacific Ocean, previously the edge of the world, became the highway of early globalization. Manila was not a colonial backwater. It was the hinge of the world economy. The vessel that made it possible, 45 meters long, built from Philippine teak, armed with cast iron cannons. Now compare it to the Balangay, smaller, older, bound with rattan rather than iron. Both instruments of connection, both built for the same sea. The ocean was always the road. The ships just kept getting larger. Intramuros was one node in a planetary network of Spanish planned cities, all built according to the laws of the Indies, from Manila to Lima, San Juan to Cartagena, San Antonio to Quito, same grid, same Plaza Mayor at the center, same blueprint on every continent. The Philippines was not the edge of the Spanish Empire, it was its gateway to Asia. In 1571, on the site of the Muslim polity of Manila, expelling its inhabitants, building over everything that came before, the Spanish constructed Intramuros, the world city. Stone fortifications, a precise grid of streets, soldiers and friars working side by side. The Reconquista that ended in Iberia in 1492 continued here, on the other side of the world, on top of a civilization that had been trading with China for centuries. For over 3 centuries, this less than 1 square kilometer district was the political, religious, and educational center of the entire Spanish Empire in Asia. Spanish officials, Chinese merchants, indigenous Filipinos, Japanese traders, Mexican-born clergy, all within a few hundred meters of each other, cosmopolitan before the word existed. Then in February 1945, almost all of it was destroyed, the Battle of Manila. American forces advancing, Japanese resistance entrenched inside the walls, flattened 3 centuries of architecture in weeks, the second most devastated Allied city of World War II after Warsaw. Tens of thousands of Filipino civilians killed. Almost everything was lost. Almost. What survived and what has been carefully reconstructed is what you see today. Fort Santiago, the Ayuntamiento, Manila Cathedral, and the San Agustin Church, standing since 1607. Through every earthquake, invasion, and war, the only building in Intramuros to survive 1945. Now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, protected by a national law, the Register of Styles, ensuring the cosmopolitan soul of old Manila is never built over again. And so we return to where we started, the same streets, the same stone walls, the same archways people are photographing right now, without necessarily knowing that beneath their feet lies the ghost of a Muslim polity, and beneath that, the trade routes of a maritime civilization crossing oceans 3,000 years before the first Spanish ship appeared on the horizon. History doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just looks like a nice place to take a photo. In 2009, Filipino master boat builders reconstructed the traditional barangays and sailed them across Southeast Asia, using only celestial signs and natural markers. No GPS, no modern instruments, the same stars, the same currents their ancestors used 5,000 years ago. The flagship vessel, Diwata ng Lahi, spirit of the race, proved that the oldest thread of a Filipino identity, the sea, the boat, the community that sails together, survived the Sultanates, the Galleons, the Battle of Manila, and everything the modern world placed on top of it. The story of the Philippines does not begin with a world city. It begins with the people who knew how to read the ocean, and they are still sailing. That's 5,000 years of collision in the Philippines. Before we go, where this video actually comes from, in 2010, I was in a postmaster program at the École d'Architecture de Paris La Villette. The program was called MAP, Métropole d'Asie-Pacifique. The research field that year was Manila. I did a deep historical study as a preparation, and I've been fascinated ever since. 15 years later, I finally made the video. It came together like this. Notebook LM for the historical outline, nano bananas for all the images, Claude to rethink the narrative order. 15 years of fascination, 3 tools, 1 story. I hope it showed. Hit the like, subscribe to City Offline. It helps us keep making these. Kita Kitsk Uli.